And that means Don Fischer joins us. Appreciate you, sir. How are you? How was your weekend after Saturday?
Well, actually, we went to a birthday party after the ball game up in Franklin, so that was fun. And then yesterday, went down to the foul course and participated in their. They had a special day for their employees and for members of the golf course, that kind of thing. And they had a par three, 9-hole par three tournament. They basically set up stakes out there, in par three territory
Right.
for this little event and played a 9-hole little par three tournament. Got to play golf. My wife went down with me and we played golf together with another gentleman on our team. And we didn't finish in the money, which we didn't care. It was just fun to be out there on the golf course on a beautiful, beautiful fall day.
I'm telling this weekend was absolutely amazing from a weather standpoint. I just assumed you were going to say you won because I was like, that's taking candy from a baby for Don.
No,
limiting to just par three, man.
Actually, I actually hit the ball better than I was anticipating that I would because I haven't played hardly at all since football got underway. But nevertheless, we had a great time. It was fun. And you're playing that golf course. You're not playing it from the tee box, so you always feel a lot better about that. You're hitting shots from 120 to 150 yards in, so that was really good.
Yeah, there is a big difference there. I guess we'll start with football. Indiana had a weekend in which they were playing a team that on paper looked like a straight up match, but Rutgers, they have been playing well. And not only that, they were one game from bowl eligibility. So obviously they were playing not too bad at 4-2 coming into the game. Greg Schiano's squad had nothing about them had looked great, but nothing had looked terrible. They were a very mediocre, but I'm struggling with the words I'm trying to look for, manageable team. And that's what they did against Indiana. They managed their offense. They managed their defense.
Well, they managed it from a standpoint. They basically controlled the football the entire game. They had it for almost 38 minutes in this contest. Indiana had it for like 22. Yep. And I think Indiana got wore down defensively in this ball game because of their offense, just leaning on them the entire contest. That's 80-yard touchdown run by Gavin Wimsatt. Just that can't happen. That was just a mistake. Obviously, it happened in the second half, and I think part of that was due to fatigue on the defensive side of it because Indiana just didn't have the ball very much on offense, not nearly enough. They were down 17-14 at halftime, so they were still very much in the ball game. But the special teams mistakes that they had in the first half killed them. Obviously, a block punt, and everybody could see it was going to be blocked because they were trying to adjust to whatever Rutgers was trying to do out there. And you had somebody sitting there coming up, moving a guy here or moving a guy there. And the next thing you know, they snap the ball and the punt gets blocked and it goes for a touchdown. That was the start of the negative things that happened in this ball game. Then you had a muff punt by Jalen Lucas that sets up another score for Rutgers at the end of the first half, which gives them momentum going into the locker room. So you're down 17-14 at halftime, still very much in the football game. And then the same thing that happened in the very first quarter of the contest, a long drive by Rutgers to start the second half, and your team looks demoralized. And that's what bothers me the most about this ball club, because at Indiana University, I have seen this for years. A team goes out there, plays hard, all of a sudden something negative happens, and you start to see things start to spiral negatively. And man, did it ever happen on Saturday? Absolutely, it did once again. No question about it. And again, special teams mistakes started that whole trend.
Yeah, and that is not, unfortunately, that's not something that just popped up. Special teams have been pretty much horrific this season all year long. It has been a thorn in Indiana's side, where in previous years it was one of the things that they could kind of lean on because they seem to have a control on it, but they've just been horrible on special teams over this course of this season. And this is not a team that is built to have that kind of a an undercurrent. Even you can't blame a muff punt on anybody other than the person who muffs the punt. But all these other things are just mistakes that were made, and that has been a season-long situation.
Here's the thing too. Two other mistakes that were made in that ball game from a special teams perspective were the Gunners not getting down punts. I mean, a 66-yard punt by James Evans,
God.
a 70-yard punt into the wind by James Evans, and the Gunners didn't even come close to getting down there to down the football. Where were they in this contest? So, and I blame special teams on a couple of other occasions this year. James Evans didn't punt the ball last week very well, but he was hurt. I mean, people didn't know that, but he was dealing with an injury of some kind, and they still felt like he could punt the ball, and they allowed him to do that. And he just didn't punt it very well against Michigan. But this past week, he was phenomenal. So, That's
for most of the season, he's been a bright spot all season. I said that yesterday. He has been. He could probably leave early for the NFL. He has been. I mean, he's been getting plenty of practice, but he has been booming some kicks this year. And if you can punt 170 yards, you're going to get somebody's attention.
Yeah, no question. And that was into the wind. I mean, the wind was blowing into him on that punt, that 70-yarder, which just astounded me that nobody got down there because it was a high and a great punt. It was not just a line drive.
What I noticed, Don, instantly, it was all three. There was three Gunners that got down to the receiver, but they were all watching the receiver. No one had any clue where the ball was, and he played them like a fiddle. Because the ball was 10, 12 yards over his head, and he was just pretending like he was going to catch it. And boy, that ball was like bam, and whoop, into the end zone it goes. So he played them like a fiddle. They were not paying attention to where the ball itself was at all.
And which is hard to do because you're running down the field trying to chase that thing and chase whoever is going to run. And I'm sure that they're taught to make sure you keep an eye on the guy that's returning it to see what he's doing out there. But at the same time, one or two of the other guys should have been headed right to that end zone, trying to make sure that they got down there in plenty of time, which they should have been able to do, and they did not. I don't know if they got blocked at the line of scrimmage or whatever case took place, because I haven't seen any replays of it. All I know is they didn't get there on either one of those two punts, and that flips the field.
Oh, absolutely. From a rushing or offensive standpoint, Indiana's offense was very balanced, but it just was not very productive. 126 yards passing, 153 yards rushing, as opposed to the 276 yards rushing alone by Rutgers, which is just 3 yards short of what Indiana's entire output was. But they're just not productive enough on either side of the ball.
Well, it brings up the quarterback situation with Brendan Sorsby being the quarterback for the entire ball game, and I have no problem with that. I like the fact that they didn't flip-flop quarterbacks in this contest. But Brendan had a very nice first quarter, and then he wasn't nearly as sharp the rest of the ball game from a throwing standpoint. He had too many throws behind guys or away from the guy. I didn't think he was as sharp as he needed to be in the throwing scenario after the first period, because I think he completed 5 of 7 in the early going, something like that.
Yep, he was rolling
and helped the team get down the field. His ability to run the football, I thought, was excellent again. So that's another thing you got to take into consideration as a positive. Trent Holland was tremendous in the ball game when he came in there. That kid needs to be on the football field, in my opinion. I'm not saying he needs to carry the ball every single time or anything like that, but there's no doubt the last 2 weeks he has proven he deserves more playing time than he's getting at this point, and especially in a ball game like this where they're leaning on you with their running game. You could lean on him with their running game because he didn't get stopped for a loss in this contest. He was
average 6 yards.
Exactly. So I don't know why and I don't want to get off on this tangent again because last year I was really ticked that Josh Henderson didn't get more.
I was getting ready to bring that up very next, man. Where was Josh Henderson?
Well, he's
I heard that he was everything I've heard, but he was ready to go yesterday, though.
Well, that may have been the case, but they didn't use him. He was listed as questionable. Maybe they're just trying to make sure that he gets back as healthy as he can possibly be before they put him in there. But at the same time, the biggest problem with this football team, in my opinion, right now, is their mental frame of mind. If they don't get their heads on straight here for the next 5 weeks, this is going to be a dismal ending to this football season that still has the potential of getting to a bowl game if they win 4 out of the next 5. And we know this week coming up is not going to be one of those. So they're going to have to probably win 4 straight. And if they get pounded in this game against Penn State like they did against Michigan, I think there's absolutely no chance that Indiana is going to pull it out.
Yeah, because I mentioned that you've got 5 games left. Normally, 4 of those would be considered winnable. Penn State is not one of those by any measure. But after you continue to lose, like you just said, you don't have to know about injuries or whatever. Then that puts you in a situation you have to win out. Well, you haven't won 4 straight games in, I don't know, 4 years probably. So what are the chances of that? Number one. But we'll find out how that goes, as it's not looking good there. I would be remiss if I do not switch over to basketball. And of course, it was a wonky weekend with Indiana did not get Boogie Fland, which that story started breaking before Hoosier Hysteria. And I do not think that it was by any chance in Snowball's chance in hell an accident that was announced on Friday. I'm sure Calipari had something to do with that. But you have Hoosier Hysteria. Everything's great. And then until it's not, of course, over the weekend, one of Indiana's players arrested not on a non-alcohol related situation. It's kind of a silly situation, really. You're like, really? Come on, dude. And I'm sure he's going to get an ass kicking from one Mike Woodson, maybe for the next 3 months. But you said something at the start in the break, actually, about entitlement, but not, and I'll let you go on to that, but also the NIL only adds to that, because these guys, these 5 stars, those are the guys that are getting the most NIL, the most attention, the most everything, right. And it only adds to that.
Well, there's no question, and I say this in not necessarily in Mackenzie Mgbako's scenario. I don't know the young man at all at this point. I've talked to him briefly at the media day. I don't know much about his personality other than he had a great personality as a guy you talked to for the first time at media day. He looks like a fun guy and all that kind of thing. But here's my deal, and it's not just Mackenzie Mgbako. It's a lot of high ranked college athletes, no matter it's football, basketball, whatever sport. A lot of these guys have been entitled their entire lives because of their abilities as an athlete. And they get into a situation where things aren't going quite the way they think it should go. And the next thing you know, I become a stubborn, bullheaded guy. And I'm going to sit there until they do what I want them to do. Whatever the case, I have no idea how he handled this. Obviously it wasn't alcohol related because there were no charges in that regard. So it's not like he just I don't know what he was thinking. And I don't know that anybody will know what he was thinking other than him. But I know this, he got himself in trouble. Why would you ever resist arrest? In other words, if a policeman has stopped you and there is justification, and he was given all kinds of opportunities to leave.
Oh, 15 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, the arresting officers basically said, just get out of here. We don't want to arrest you. And he just wouldn't budge. So I don't know what the issue was. All I know is when a policeman tells me to do something, I do it. And I've been stopped multiple times because of my heavy foot in my lifetime. And I have never disrespected an officer in any way, shape, or form. And I've never been treated badly by one because I didn't do that. I basically said, I'm at fault here, not a problem. I will do what you tell me to do. And that's what they have to do too. But I think because they have always been able to do whatever they've wanted in many respects. And I'm not saying he's a spoiled kid or anything. I'm just saying, I'm talking about in general now. You've got to make the right choices. And that was certainly not the right choice.
And I could see getting into an argument with someone at a fast food restaurant because you have this maybe hair of an air of superiority. I'm not saying I've never been upset at a drive-through in my life, but they had to bust the side window out of his vehicle because he wouldn't leave, wouldn't roll his window down. I'm like, yikes. But oh well. You've got to let's see, when does the Mike Woodson show start? You've told us before.
Here's what happens this week. We've got the talk show for Coach Woods or for Coach Allen on Wednesday night. I'll be getting confused as we go along here. I've got Coach Woodson on Wednesday night at 7:05. On Saturday, we got the football game with Indiana taking on Penn State at State College. Then on Sunday, we've got Indiana playing the University of Indianapolis on the hardwood in the first exhibition game for Mike Woodson's ball club. And then on Monday, we've got our first talk show with Coach Woodson at 7:05 at the Chop Shop next Monday night.